Hello guys, today I want to talk to you about Universal Music Group and their recent dealings with the Chinese communist-ran company Tencent. Now, Universal Music Group is one of the big three. When I talk about the big three, I mean that there are three companies, three record labels who control 80% of the music that is heard, who profit from 80% of the music and control 80% of the music market in the United States. And they also have huge shares of the music market abroad. So you have three companies that basically dominate the music industry. Universal Music Group is one of those. And they also happen to be the largest of the three by far. Their growth has been substantial and considerably faster than their competitors in Warner and Sony. So Universal Music Group used to be part of General Electric back in the days when they controlled Comcast, Universal, and NBC. Sometime around the time where GE fell off the map and Comcast took control of Universal. Sometime within the transition from GE to Comcast, Universal was sold to this French mass media company called Vivendi. And Vivendi, who has operated and owned Universal Music Group since around 2006. What I wanted to discuss was, of course, they have sold as of December of last year, there were reports saying that Vivendi has sold a 10% stake of Universal Music Group to the Chinese company, the Chinese tech company, they've sold a 10% stake to the Chinese tech company Tencent. Now, Tencent is well known for being the parent company of TikTok, which is becoming more and more popular all the time. In fact, it's kind of alarming when I don't have any kids personally, but I do know plenty of people who do, and TikTok is remarkably popular amongst children. The last time I even was in a room with my friend's kids, the kids were all talking about making TikTok videos. So Tencent owns them, and now they own a 10%. As of last year, they've owned a 10% share of Universal Music Group, which is the dominant music group of the big three. Or they are the dominant record label of the big three record labels in the United States. And of course, they have international dominance as well. So basically, it sounds like Tencent wants to get into Tencent has their own music company called Tencent Music Entertainment. So Tencent Music Entertainment wants to. They've also established a partnership with. I guess you'd call it a licensing deal with Universal Music Group, where Universal Music Group gets access to the Chinese consumer market while helping and working with Tencent Music Entertainment to better reach their Chinese audience. So Tencent wants to learn from Universal's record label experience, and they want to both help Universal Music Group reach into their market. You know, they're allowing Universal Music Group into the Chinese market while getting more exposure of their Chinese musicians. I think that I think it's going to be a two-way street. Where the Chinese, they want to reach the Chinese audience better in China, but eventually they want to be expanding. Tencent Music Entertainment wants to expose their artists to internationally. Now, we're a long ways from having Chinese entertainers at the level of American musicians. Chinese musicians and American musicians are not on the same playing field by any stretch of the imagination. For one thing, I can't name a single Chinese musician, and I doubt that many of you guys could either. And a lot of that, I would argue, has to do with living under a communist dictatorship. Let's be honest. They can learn. Tencent can learn the ways of Universal Music Group on how to run a record label and how to be the dominating record label of the world, and especially the U.S. But let's be clear. Creativity is a democratic endeavor, largely. You can't expect to just. They're going to try to. They've got this partnership to expose Universal Music Group and their artists to the Chinese market under close supervision, of course, by the Chinese government, because, of course, Tencent being a Chinese company means that they are directly integrated with the Chinese government. You can't separate. There is no true separation of a Chinese government and of the Chinese government and a Chinese company. They are interwoven. To some degree, they're always interwoven. And of course, the Chinese government has the official seal of approval of whatever company is allowed in China at all. They have a seal of approval on everything. And Tencent is the Chinese government's official people's music and entertainment company. Tencent Music Entertainment is. Tencent is probably the most well-known tech company in the world from China. It's definitely the most. It seems like it's the most powerful tech company in China, primarily for its ownership of TikTok, and TikTok has gotten international appeal as well, especially with younger kids, with children. TikTok's doing very well. So in 2018, Tencent Music Entertainment went public in the U.S. And in 2020, along with that 10% stake that Tencent is, let's go back. In 2019, how I mentioned, Tencent has bought a 10% share of Universal Music Group, but in addition to that, Universal Music Group is also part of the deal of that 10% buy is that Tencent has the rights to acquire another 10% of Universal Music Group at the same valuation if they do it by the beginning of 2021. Sometime in late January of 2021 is the official deadline for Tencent to buy up to 20%. So they have 10%. If they want to get another 10% for a total of 20%, they have until January of 2021. And if they do that, they'll get it for the same valuation. So to be clear, Tencent buys 10%. They have bought 10% as of last year for $3.3 billion. And if they buy another 10% by January 21st, they'll get that in addition. They'll get that other 10% for $3.3 billion as well. Same market valuation. So the largest Chinese tech company and the official and pretty much the biggest Chinese entertainment company under the Chinese tech company, they are expanding their influence through ownership, partial ownership, mind you. 10% and 20% potentially are not. They're a silent partner, but they're still. We're still talking about a Chinese takeover of. We're moving in the direction of Chinese influence and taking over ownership of the largest entertainment or the largest record label in the world. Universal Music Group is the biggest record label in the world, and a Chinese tech company is buying into it. That should be very alarming. It's not being discussed at all. I don't know anybody who's talking about it. I only stumbled across it by researching into the big three music companies, their big three record labels. So, in addition to that, Universal Music Group and Tencent Music Entertainment have agreed to a multi-year agreement where they're working towards a joint venture of this company, NetEase Music, which is a Chinese freemium music streaming service. So, similar to, I guess you could say, somewhat similar to, you know what, I don't know. It sounds kind of like YouTube, but I can't say anything about it. I've never used the service. I don't know much about it. But this NetEase Music is going to be the love child of Universal Music Group and Tencent Music Entertainment. It's actually existed for a few years. I think since 2017 this NetEase has existed. But it's going to be sharing the love from both Universal Music Group and Tencent Music Entertainment as Tencent and Universal Music Group become closer. And again, this, well, it should be clear that Universal Music Group, although it once had a relationship directly with Universal Studios, it no longer does. They're now separate companies. Universal Music Group owned by a French company, Vivendi. So, but it's still very alarming that this Chinese company is gaining influence on the international music scene. It's more concerning what they're going to be hiding from us as far as music goes, what music isn't going to be allowed on this label, more so than it is what is going to be added to it. Because I'm more afraid of what Western music won't be put on Universal for fear of Chinese censorship. Universal Music Group will now be more subject to Chinese censorship. I'm more worried about censoring Western music from Beijing than I am worried about Chinese musicians entering the global stage through the largest record label. Both are possible, but they'd have to learn, these Chinese musicians, they'd have to learn English. Because Chinese is not a well-spoken language internationally. It's very well-spoken in China and amongst Chinese internationals, but not very well-spoken otherwise. So if these Chinese musicians want to break into the global market, they're going to have to learn English, because English is the unofficial global language. I think it's pretty obvious that English is the unofficial global language. Ask any immigrant into the United States, they'll tell you what a blessing it is to know English. So anyway, yeah. So Universal Music Group, the largest record label, is strengthening its ties with China and Tencent Music Entertainment through the Chinese-owned tech company Tencent. So anyway, this is an ongoing story, of course, and we'll be in touch over well, I guess you can't say it's not ongoing to the extent that there's stuff popping up all the time, but it's a subject that I'll be approaching in the future. So thank you for your time.